Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our first special service honoring and remembering Lady Eshinni and Lady Kakushinni for their important work in helping to build the first Joro Shinshu Buddhist Temple in Kyoto, Japan. From that temple, Joro Shinshu Buddhism has spread around the world and enabling us to have our temple even here in San Diego, so far away. We will begin our service this morning with a fruit and floral offering by the pre-K and third grade class. Thank you, Elise and Tyler. We will begin our service, so please turn to page 21 to chant the Sambujo. Page 21.
Bujo Mida Nyorai Niudo Jo San Ge Bujo Shaka Nyorai Niudo Jo San Ge Bujo Jipo
Please listen as Smitty Sensei recites the Hyobyakumon, stating the intention of service.
Kansho. Today we gather to remember Eshinni and Kakushinni, the wife and youngest daughter of Shinran Shonin. Yet because these two women took on roles much greater than the simple labels of wife and daughter, we are able to gather here today as Jodo Shinshu Buddhists. While Shinran is considered to be the founder of the true Pure Land School, it is these two women who are truly at the heart of Shin Buddhism's foundation. As a landowner, Eshinni's support was integral in enabling Shinran Shonin not only to survive exile from Kyoto, but also to raise a family and pursue his life's mission of spreading the Nembutsu teaching. Kakushinni not only cared for her elderly father during his final years, but also established the physical foundation of the Honganji on land which was deeded to her. As a wife, Eshinni gave Shinran Shonin her complete dedication and support so that his teachings could be shared. And as a daughter, Kakushinni established the foundation and center from which Shinran's teachings have been transmitted for centuries. We owe a debt of gratitude to Eshinni and Kakushinni, for without them, we would have never encountered the Nembutsu teaching. Namo Amida Butsu, Namandab, Namandab, Namandab.
Please turn to page 35 for the chanting of the Juseige. Page 35.
Gagon chosegan ishimu jodo shigan humanzok sehujo shogak gao muryoko huidai seshu husai shobingu sehujo shogak gashi jobundo myosho chojipo kukyo mishomon sehujo shogak ryokujin shonen jo eshu bongyo shigumu jodo isho tenin shi jinriki and daiko husho musaido shoujo san kumyo kosai shuyakunan kaihichi egen meshi konmo an heisoku sho akudo tsudaten zen shumon koso jo manzok ioro jipo nichigan shujuki tenko onpugen ishukai hozo kose kudoku ho jo odai shuchu seppo shishiku kuyo isai but gusoku kutoku hon gan e shinjo man sangai o yo buten muge chi sudan mi hu sho ganga ku erik toshi sai sho son shiganya koka daisen o kando koku sho tenin to chin myo ke namandabu 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 Ganishiku doku Yodo sei sai Doden bodai shin ojo anvako. Gasho namandab 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 namandab.
Please stand as we read together the gratitude for the Jodo Shinshu teaching written by Gomonshu Otani Kojun, which may be found as an insert in your Gatha book. Please stand. So I'm going to read it a little bit more slowly. I just read more slowly. So if we can stay together, that would be very nice. Gratitude for the Jodo Shinshu teaching. Namo Amida Butsu. Entrust yourself to me. I will liberate you just as you are. This is the voice, calling voice of Amida. My blind passions are embraced in the Buddha's awakening. So the Buddha calls to me. I will liberate you just as you are, gratefully responding to the Buddha's call. I find that I am already on the path that leads to the Pure Land, and the Nembutsu flows freely from my thankful heart. Living with the Dharma as my guide softens my rigid heart and mind. Gratitude for the gift of life I have received frees me from becoming lost in greed and anger, and allows me to share a warm smile and speak gentle words. Sharing in the joy and sadness of others, I shall strive to live each day to its fullest. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida. Namo Amida. You may be seated. We will now have representatives from our various temple organizations to do Oshoko. So first we have the Dharma School staff, Norman Kiyono. Dharma School students, Andrea and Paulina Covarrubias. Sangha Teens, Jack Schultz. Junior Young Buddhist Association, Ava Yamamoto. Adult Buddhist Association, Greg Yonekura. Buddhist Women's Association, Moni Ryan. Taiko Group, Laura Yoshida. Komon, Joyce Teague. Buddhist Temple of San Diego, Luann Lee. Thank you very much. We are very fortunate to have as our guest speaker today, via Zoom, the Reverend Rensho and Spencer from the Idaho-Oregon Buddhist Temple. Reverend Ann began attending the Idaho-Oregon Buddhist Temple in the fall of 2002. At that point in her life, she was working in the medical field and helping families make difficult medical decisions and to cope with grief and loss. She found that the Jodo Shinshu Buddhist teachings, along with her relationship with the community of people at the Idaho-Oregon Buddhist Temple, helped her to find meaning in her work and a new perspective to help face life's challenges. Her desire to learn more about Buddhism led her to volunteer at the temple, as well as pursue academic study in Buddhism. In 2010, she received Tokudo ordination at Nishi Honganji in Kyoto, and in 2012, she graduated with her MA in Buddhist Studies from the Institute of Buddhist Studies and the Graduate Theological Union. In 2018, she received her Kyoshi certification, and in 2021, she received the status of Assistant Minister. In addition to working at Idaho-Oregon Buddhist Temple, she continues her work in the field of medicine as a lecturer at Boise State University College of Health Sciences and as a genetic counselor in a small private practice. So please welcome Reverend Ann to the Buddhist Temple of San Diego.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me okay? Am I coming through loud and clear? Give me excellent. Okay, great. So this is for the Dharma School kids, right? And everybody else? This is so I want to start just by thanking you for having me here. And so as I mentioned during the warm-up, I am at my family home on the coast of Washington. So even though my temple and my current home is in Idaho, and I am an assistant minister at the Idaho-Oregon Buddhist Temple, I grew up on the coast of Washington. And for those of you who might want to come visit me here, the instructions are pretty easy. You get on I-5 and you drive north for 17 hours. And when you get to Chehalis, you turn left and you follow Highway 12 for about an hour. You turn north again for another half hour, and then you're at my place. So pretty easy because it's mostly just I-5 north. The climate's a little different here, though. So I grew up on a cranberry farm, and I want to show you. I'm going to try a screen share here, and hopefully it will work. Is that showing up? You're so small on my screen now. I can't see if you're giving me a thumbs up or not. Give me a big wave if you can see it. Excellent. Okay. So this is the cranberry farm that I grew up on. And the green stuff that you see is cranberries. I know most of our cranberry vines, most of you probably know about cranberries from people who flood harvest. And usually when you see the bogs, they're underwater. We do a different method, actually, of harvesting. So we don't flood, and this is what the cranberry bogs look like. And then that warehouse actually is one of the first farm buildings on the farm that I grew up on the coast of Washington. So this bog is actually I'm going to do another screen share if I can figure out. Let's see, new share. So this, is it up? Wave at me if it's up. Okay, so this is a picture of my father. This is how we pick cranberries, is with this machine called a Furford picker, named for Julius Furford, who invented it. It runs through the vines using teeth that strip the berries off of the vines, and you think you can see some red stripes on the machine. Those are the berries that are moving up from the bog and being dumped into a burlap sack. And then this is my father. My father's name is Walter Cottrell, and the name of our family farm for legal purposes and other things is Walter Cottrell Boggs. It's my dad owned the business, and so the business is named for him. But if we look at it in a larger perspective, this business, this cranberry farm, is so very much more than my father. In fact, it was my father's parents who started the farm shortly after World War II. They bought the property and began creating the business. After World War II, the two remaining brothers of my father also came to farm on the family, as did the little sister. So they came with their spouses and then their children, and they all farmed together. Eventually, other people moved away, and it was just my family that was left with the farm. But if we think about all of the people who built this farm, my father's parents, and the neighbors who helped out a lot. They helped with planting of the berries. They helped with weeding. They helped with clearing the land and fertilizing, and then cooking and feeding everybody. When we look at this, we know that there literally are hundreds of people, maybe even thousands, probably thousands of people who helped to create this successful business. So I'm going to stop screen sharing for a second. Okay, I can see you better. So if we look, well, the machine was, as I mentioned, created by a man named Julius Furford. He was an inventor. He saved us lots of time. Before there was a Furford picker, picking was done with a hand scoop. So the machine saves a lot of time. So, you know, Walter Cottrell Boggs would not exist without the Furford picker. It would not exist without all of the family and neighbors and friends and crew, hundreds, probably thousands of people over the years who have helped create this business that has my father's name on it. And I think it's important for us to remember that this is really the case with everything. Everything that has a name on it only exists because of, as we say in Buddhism, infinite causes and conditions. And that there is nothing that we can just put one name on and say this is this is the thing that this is the one cause for this thing. Everything is far more complicated than that, and certainly that's the case with the cranberry bog. And I don't know how many hundreds of hours I have spent out pulling little tiny willow plants off of the bog when I was little, and how many hundreds of hours I've spent harvesting berries and dragging burlap sacks of berries over to the track and over to the road so that they can brought into the harvest house, into the warehouse for processing. Right now, as I speak, we probably have, because it's harvest and I've taken the morning off to talk to you guys, we have perhaps 12 or 15 people down on the bogs working, helping get the harvest in. And we multiply this times, gosh, maybe 70 years that this bog has been in our family. It's really mind-boggling how many people have made this possible. So I was thinking about this morning because in the context of the Eshinni Kakushinni service, because when we talk about Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, our Buddhist tradition that's been around for hundreds of years, when we talk about who founded it, we always talk about Shinran Shonin, right? He's the founder of the tradition. But just like my father did not create Walter Cottrell Boggs by himself, Shinran Shonin did not create Jodo Shinshu Buddhism by himself. He did not discover it by himself. He had teachers himself, many, many teachers, especially Honen, who he talks about specifically. But he also has, he had his own parents. He had his own siblings. He had his friends who supported him. And then he had a wife and children and communities who helped to teach him, helped to support him, helped him think through his ideas, helped him talk through the things that he was thinking about and exploring and studying. And so whenever we say, you know, Shinran Shonin founded our tradition, it's true, but it's not the whole story. And in Buddhism, where we think about interconnection and we think about relationship and we think about non-duality and everything being related, I think it's especially important that we pause and we say, well, who were the other people? What were the other causes and conditions? What infinite number of things came into creating the Jodo Shinshu Buddhism that we have. And just as I think it's important for me to thank the people in my family and in my life and around me who have made the family farm that I love so much possible, I think it's important for us to pause and stop and say, who else? Who else is responsible for Jodo Shinshu being here? And I think two of the most important people in Shinran's life and in the legacy of our tradition are the women that we're honoring today. Eshinni, Shinran's wife, and Kakushinni, the youngest daughter. Because without them, there is no way that the Jodo Shinshu teachings would have come down to subsequent generations. It was those relationships that nurtured and supported those traditions and their appreciation for what Shinran taught that motivated the creating of the institutions that led eventually to our having temples in North America. And so so thinking about that in the context of this tradition, but I would also say, you know, for all of us all the time, it's just a good idea to look beyond the label and look beyond what does it say it is and say, well, who else has made it possible? Who are the people in the background? Who are the people who are quietly working without getting recognition? And I would encourage you to do this in this upcoming weeks, to just say, thank you to somebody who you might not have thought to thank before. Because, you know, maybe it's the person in the back room at the grocery store. Maybe it's the checker at the grocery store, the people who help us get our food. Maybe it's a gas station attendant. Just the mailman, the mail delivery person, to just stop and say, well, who all contributes to my success and the success of the people around me? Who are the people who are working quietly in the background? Because without them, we would not be able to do what we do and to appreciate the things that we appreciate. So that's my homework for everybody, is to try to notice somebody that is in the background that is actually making your life possible, because that is really the role that Kakushinni and Eshinni play in Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, is that we are able to hear Shinran's teachings because of these two women, as well as, of course, many other people. And with that in mind, I would like to end this talk by reading the Golden Chain as a reminder. So I'm going to read Golden Chain 1. Feel free to join me if you wish. I am a link in Amita's golden chain of love that stretches around the world. I will keep my link bright and strong. I will be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself. I will think pure and beautiful thoughts, say pure and beautiful words, and do pure and beautiful deeds. May every link in Amita's golden chain of love be bright and strong, and may we all attain perfect peace. Namo Amida Butsu. No. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda, Namanda. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Reverend Ann. It's a lot to think about, and even at our temple, just remember to thank those that are in the background here at our temple. That keeps our temple going. Thank you very much. A good message. At this time, we will have the installation of the newly elected officers of our Junior YBA. So will those individuals please come forward?
Hi, good morning. And if you could line up in between myself and the large incense burner here, and so everybody can see and welcome you. So we're going to go through the installation pledge. You, the newly elected officers of the Junior Young Buddhist Association of the Buddhist Temple of San Diego, in accepting this office, take upon yourselves certain responsibilities toward your Sangha and the temple. Are you willing to forego some of your personal desires for the common good? Are you determined to do your part during your term in office in spreading the ideals of Shin Buddhism by living its core values, which is a life of gratitude for the benevolence of the Buddha and respect for all the interdependence of all life? Will you provide your best effort and treat all others with respect and fairness? Your participation in serving in this group with the values of Shin Buddhism will enhance your life and those of all the other members. So if you will take these responsibilities, please repeat the following affirmation. I take office in the Junior YBA of the Buddhist Temple of San Diego. I accept my responsibilities and affirm my aspiration to keep the teachings of the Buddha as my guide. Gassho. Namandab, 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 namandab. Thank you, and please congratulate the new officers of the Junior YBA.
So we didn't get to meet them, so can you introduce who they are and what your positions are? Ava, okay.
Thank you, Ava. My bad. I should have asked you.
Hi, I'm Ava Yamamoto, and I'm the president of the Junior YBA. Andrea Covarrubias is the vice president. Cassidy Muraoka is the treasurer. And Paulina Covarrubias is the historian. And then not here is Annika Bull, and she is our secretary. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and congratulations. And thank you for your service to the Junior YBA and to our temple. They are our future. Please rise for the Gatha on page 140, Seiya, which means peaceful night. The lyrics are taken from a poem written by Lady Takeko Kujo, who is the founder of the Buddhist Women's Association. And then please remain standing for the pledge, which will follow immediately after that. Seiya, page 140. Thank you, Anne. That was beautiful. Please remain standing for our pledge. We're going to read it together. It's in the insert in your Gatha book. Our pledge, written by Monshu Otani Kojun. Breaking out of my shell, I will share a warm smile and speak gentle words, just like the kind Buddha. Not becoming lost in my greed, anger, and ignorance, I shall think and act with an open mind, just like the calm and peaceful Buddha. Not putting myself first, I will share in the joy and sadness of others, just like the compassionate Buddha. Realizing the gift of life I have received, I shall strive to live each day to its fullest, like the Buddha who tirelessly works to liberate all. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namam Dabs, Namam Dabs. You may be seated. So are there any announcements at this time?
The Junior YBA is holding a canned food drive, and we'll be accepting non-perishable items until November 13th, and monetary donations are also welcome. And the collection box is in the back of the Hondo. Thank you. And thank you to those who have already donated.
Hi, BWA announcement. I think you've already heard this, but just in case you haven't, we are doing a makizushi sale. The pickup date is Eitaikyo service, which is November 13th. So we had a practice session yesterday for rolling the sushi. So that was a great experience. I believe the deadline is today for the makizushi. It's $7 a roll, and you pick it up after service on the 13th of November. The other sale that we're having is the almond brittle, which has already been ordered. So if you want to guarantee your order, because we'll just sell until we sell out. So, but just in case you want to make sure that you get it, please, the sooner the better for the order. Thanks.
Hello, on behalf of Dharma School, I just wanted to say thank you for the very generous donations for the stuffed animal drive that benefited the Ronald McDonald Charities. We collected 31 stuffed animals and $120, which will be directly donated to Ronald McDonald Charities, which is associated with the Children's Hospital. Also next week is going to be our Dharma School Halloween party, which is going to follow the streaming of the proclamation service. So please join us. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Just a reminder that we are running our annual winter clothing donation drive starting November 1st. So we're collecting any kind of warm weather, jackets, sweaters, sweatshirts, thick socks. So that this donation drive is supporting Streets of Hope, and we're running that through this mid-December. So hope you can support this initiative. Thank you.
All right, we'll try up here then. Thank you very much, Junko. This is a preview of coming attractions, I suppose we could call it, that we'll be having our All Life Forms Memorial Service in conjunction with the Eitaikyo service on Sunday, November 13th, 2022. And I just wanted to remind that well, the Dharma School is already aware of this, but for everybody else in the Sangha, that all Sangha members are invited to submit the name and a short description or a memory of any person, pet, or other deceased being. And this can be any loved one or, whether family member or a friend or a pet or other animals or plants or insects or anything that is meaningful to you who is no longer physically with us right now. And we would ask you to please submit those by November 11th, which is the Friday before the service. And the list of the submitted names will be read during the service, as we did last year, similar to a Shotsuki Hoyo service. So this is an opportunity if perhaps your loved one or family member or animal or pet isn't actually on a Shotsuki Hoyo list. What if you just like to remember them at this time of year? We ask that you submit the name and a little information about them so we can read that. And they can be included during our service that day. And you can submit that to the temple office or to the MAs, or email any of us, and that's great. And we'd like to remember all those who have supported us throughout our lives.
Thank you, Reverend Smitty. And many of us have our pets that are parts of our family, so I think it's a good opportunity to remember your pets. Let's see. I think Luen Lee is going to offer words of appreciation at this time.
Good morning. How are you? So nice to see all of you here in person, and hello to those that are watching this via live stream. Thank you to our tech group for making it possible to observe the Eshinni Kakushinni Memorial Service. On behalf of the BTSD, I want to thank Reverend Hokai Smitty Smith for officiating today's service, and to Reverend Laverne Imori for co-officiating. We give our appreciation to Reverend Rensho Spencer for making time to give such a meaningful Dharma school message, and we look forward to her Eshinni and Kakushinni Dharma message later in the service. And also, we want to visit her family cranberry farm, so we'll be taking a trip. No. Never know, we might show up. I love cranberries. Okay. Thank you to all the ministerial assistants for their participation with the service and preparing the Onaijin. Junko Kajita for chairing the service. Breven Honda for ringing of the Kansho. The temple representatives for your participation today. Ann Ong for providing the music. And the preschool to third grade class for your fruit offerings. Congratulations to the cabinet of the Junior YBA and the advisors on your installation. We really appreciate your help at Temple's events. It's all year long, so we really appreciate your support. Deep gratitude to you, the Sangha, for also your support and your donations. That is deeply appreciated. And I have to mention the Padres. So in closing, no matter what happens with the Padres today, thank you to them for giving us the opportunity to be one of the 4 teams that can make it to the World Series. So go Pods. Thank you.
Thank you, Luann. Let's see. At this time, the Dharma School students may do oshoko and are excused to their classes. And the adults will remain in the Hondo for the adult Dharma service. So, Dharma School students, if you'd like to do oshoko, and you're excused for your class. So I think these are mostly high school kids, and their teacher is Norman Kiyono. Thank you, Norman. And Greg Yonakura with the preschool and third grade class. Thank you, students. And thank you, Breven Honda, also a teacher. We're going to continue with the Dharma School, adult Dharma School service. So we'll start with the Vandana and Tisarana. Let's see, I don't have the page number for that. Does anyone know what page that's on?
It's on page 96. That was
Thank
very
you.
bad of me not to put that
Okay,
on there
thank
for
you. 96, page 96, Vandana and Tisarana.
And please, everybody, chant with me from the beginning and the whole way through. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Homage to him, the exalted one, the enlightened one, the supremely awakened one. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I go to the Sangha for guidance. Namo Kie Butsu. Namo Kie Ho. Namo Kie So. Yasho Namandab, 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 Namandab.
So we will now listen to the Dharma message given by Reverend Spencer via Zoom.
You know, I'd like to do a brief reintroduction before Reverend Ann begins her Dharma talk. You know, she stole my reintroduction by spending her whole talk to the students and everybody else here by explaining about her bog and the work that's done there. So that was going to be part of my reintroduction. But now that she's already told you all about that, I guess what I have to do now is start on her homework. So in addition to being very grateful to Eshinni and Kakushinni, who enabled us to be here today, as we look back on the history and how Jodo Shinshu really was formed, I have to say today I'm grateful to have Reverend Ann here, even though it's on Zoom. So I'm grateful for all those who made Zoom possible, that we could get together and join each other in this fashion. And I'm grateful for our tech crew. Of today it's Bill and Ken and Breven, who have made all the wires work, and all those electrons are all running where they're supposed to run, so that we could join with Reverend Ann, and those who are joining us over YouTube were able to see the service. And I wanted to thank all of you, whether you're here in person or watching online virtually, because otherwise it would be very lonely being in the Onaijin by myself if it wasn't for everybody else here who's part of our Sangha, part of our Jodo Shinshu family. So thank you so much to all of you for being here today. But most importantly, thank you to my good Dharma friend, Reverend Ann Spencer, for providing these messages to us today.
Thank you, Reverend Smitty. So everybody can still hear me? Okay, excellent, excellent. So I think what Reverend Smitty was saying about the technology, when you go home and you look up Grayland, Washington on the map, you will see that this is truly pretty close to the middle of nowhere. And the fact that I am able to join you from here is amazing. And it's even more as I'm sitting here in my childhood bedroom, thinking back to my own growing up. It's kind of astonishing. I never would have thought as a 14-year-old that I would be doing this. It's just so many causes and conditions and so much support and so much, yeah, just so much support over the years from childhood up to now. And again, all the amazing technology and perseverance to keep our sanghas connected and our communities connected. Just so much to be grateful for. So with that, let me head into my thoughts. I am obviously really grateful to be able to speak at your inaugural Eshinni Kakushinni Memorial service. Women have been integral to Jodo Shinshu Buddhism from its very beginning. Shinran Shonin, who founded Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, was married and had children. And this service honors Shinran's wife, Eshinni, and their youngest daughter, Kakushinni. From a broader perspective, this service acknowledges Jodo Shinshu families in general, and today I want to focus on the special relationship between mothers and daughters. I want to open my talk by reading part of a 650-year-old letter from Shinran's wife, Eshinni, to their daughter, Kakushinni. This letter was written by Eshinni while Eshinni was living in Echigo province, in the middle of nowhere, very much like where I am now, and managing her family's estate. And Kakushinni, along with her husband and children, was living in Kyoto. Mother and daughter would have been 300 miles apart and had not seen each other for several years. Letters would have been carried by people who were traveling to and from Kyoto for other reasons. There was no dedicated postal service, and it was never certain whether or not a letter would make it to its destination. So very different from our current situation where we can communicate with loved ones across the world instantly. Kakushinni clearly treasured her mother's letters and passed them down to her children and grandchildren. Later, the letters were lost and forgotten, and in fact, so lost and so forgotten that there was some question about whether Shinran had ever been married or had children. But they were found hundreds of years later in the early 20th century. The letter that I have chosen to share with you today is probably the last letter that Eshinni sent to her daughter. It is the most recent of the letters that was found. Please listen to these words from a mother to a daughter. I am happy to have a way of sending this letter. I did not think I would still be alive this year, but I am 87, I believe. I was born in the year of the tiger, so I must be 87 or 88. Right now, I am simply waiting for my time to come. The number of years that I have lived is frightening, but I neither cough nor spit up phlegm, nor have I been having my back or legs massaged. Usually, I am as energetic as a dog, but this year I have become overly forgetful and feeble-minded. Also, I received the twill garment that you sent me, and there is simply no way to express how grateful I am. As I now wait for that time to come, I only wonder if this will be the last thing that I receive from you. I have kept it safe up to the present, thinking I would wear it at the time of my death. I am quite delighted with it. Also, I would be delighted to hear what your children are doing. I especially want to hear about your eldest child. Indeed, how I wish there could be one more time for me to see you and for you to see me while I am still in this world. I myself will be going to the Pure Land Paradise soon. There, everything can be seen without darkness. So be sure to say the Nembutsu and come to paradise with me. Indeed, when we go to the paradise and meet again, nothing whatsoever will be in darkness. Also, be sure to send me a little cotton wadding by some means. Lady Wakasa, your servant, must now be gentle in her old age. I think of her with true fondness. She should be sure to say the Nembutsu and come to the Pure Land to be with us. Above all else, please tell me in detail about your children. I want to hear everything. I heard about the one that was born the year before last, so I think of him fondly as well. My servant Kesa has some sort of awful protrusion coming out of her head, and she has had it for more than 10 years already. She cannot do anything and says she is simply waiting for her time to come. Also, Kurosawa must be beginning his continuous Nembutsu retreat on the mountain temple. He said something to the effect that he is going to complete his writings. He is doing these things for your father, Shinran. There are so many things that I want to say, but I must send this letter at dawn, so I'm writing at night. It is very dark, and surely you will not be able to read it, so I will stop here. Also, please send a few needles. You should send them inside your letter. Please tell me about your children in detail. I would be comforted just to hear about them. I will stop here, for it is impossible to finish all the things that I want to tell you. Also, is Lady Saisho still an eligible bride? It is so dark, I wonder how I have written this. Surely you will not be able to read it. Signed the 3rd month, 12th day, at the hour of the boar, 10 p.m. Maybe I'm a little bit sentimental, but I cry when I read this letter. Perhaps it is because I am now in my late 50s. My own mother died earlier this year at the age of 90, and my only child is all grown up. In this position, I can understand both the relationship of a daughter to her elderly mother and the relationship of a mother to her adult child. I feel like I can imagine both being the writer of this letter and its recipient, and I love so much about it. I love how quickly the letter shifts back and forth between the practical matters such as fabric and needles, updates about people that they both know, Eshinni's plans surrounding her own death, and spiritual matters of the Nembutsu and Amida's Pure Land. I suspect that if you had listened to me and my mother talk on the phone just a year ago, you would have heard us doing exactly the same thing, jumping around between seemingly unrelated topics, all things that we have in common with each other. I hope you feel how much Eshinni loves her daughter. I feel this in so many ways, but especially in her inability to sign off. She has so much to tell her daughter. She misses her, and she keeps thinking of just one more thing that she needs to share. In some ways, these letters are not very remarkable. In fact, one of the things I love about them is how little has changed in 700 years. Mothers are still mothers, and daughters are still daughters. But in another way, these letters represent a historic shift in Buddhism, because these are letters written by the wife of a Buddhist religious leader to their daughter. These letters are astonishing because before Shinran, Buddhist clergy and monks and nuns were required to be celibate. They were not supposed to get married, and they were not supposed to have children. This requirement was written into Japanese law. People being people, of course, these relationships did happen, but they were shameful and were generally kept secret and not talked about much. The rules for celibacy can be traced back to the historic Buddha in India. The monks and nuns who followed Shakyamuni Buddha cut their attachments to the world, and having renounced family life, were supposed to live simply and focus on their spiritual lives, helping others selflessly and indiscriminately without being focused or distracted by family matters. These rules came through India and China, Korea and Japan, and were very much in effect during Shinran's time. In addition to the requirement of celibacy, there was a bias against women's spiritual abilities in general. Many sacred texts of India and China describe how bad and even disgusting women are, and I think that these disgusting these rules about women to some degree, and comments about how disgusting women's bodies are, were probably written to some degree to discourage the young monks from becoming distracted by women. It was also believed that spiritual progress was harder for women than for men, and there's a practical explanation for this. The demands of being a woman, pregnancy, giving birth, child rearing, housework, caring for others, all of this was so overwhelming that it would have been very hard to find time and energy to engage in spiritual activities that require long hours and study of concentration, the kinds of things that the monks were doing in the monastery. In addition, many people believed that women were just so tainted by bad karma that it would be impossible for them to become enlightened. It was even taught that in order for a woman to become a Buddha, she would have to become a man first. So overall, from a spiritual point of view, much of Buddhist history has seen women as spiritual second-class citizens. When Shinran was a Tendai monk living in the monastery, he knew all this. He understood that he was not supposed to get married and have children, but he wanted to marry, and this is clear from many of his writings. In his late 20s, he had a spiritual vision of Kannon-sama, a female bodhisattva, who promised to become a woman he could marry and love, and after their life together, she would guide him to Amida's Pure Land. A few years after this vision, he left the monastery and married Eshinni. Interestingly, Eshinni also had a vision in which she saw Shinran as a manifestation of the bodhisattva, Kannon-sama. So they both saw each other as bodhisattvas, and I think that's about as romantic as it gets. Both were intelligent and deeply spiritual people, and I can't help wondering how much the Dharma Shinran taught came out of Shinran and Eshinni's discussions and conversations. We know that they traveled a lot together. They moved their family a few times, and I imagine them walking and traveling with the children and talking about important matters. The couple had several children, and the youngest of whom was Kakushinni, the one who Eshinni wrote these letters to. Even though Shinran was no longer a monk, he continued to study and teach the Dharma. He gained deep understanding of the power of Amida's unlimited compassion to bring all beings to enlightenment. In his life with Eshinni, he saw how hard ordinary people worked, and watching servants, fishermen, hunters, and carpenters, Shinran realized that they would not have time for religious practice. Their lives were too busy for study. As a married man, he also saw the difficulties that women faced. He saw how hard his wife worked. He saw how hard pregnancy and childbirth were. He saw how hard his daughters worked. These are things he never would have seen or appreciated while living as a monk in a monastery full of men, where women and children were not allowed. As a husband and father, Shinran realized the importance of Amida's compassion being directed at all beings. He saw how the Nembutsu teaching offered hope, a spiritual path, especially for those in the lowest ranks of society, the people who lacked the time and energy and resources to be able to do the level of study that he had been able to do in the monastery. Living away from the monastery, living as a husband and father, Shinran had a new perspective on the importance of the Nembutsu to help all beings. And he taught this Dharma of the all-encompassing nature of Amida's compassion in communities that would not have heard such an accepting message before. Shinran did not intend to start a new Buddhist sect, but after his death, his daughter Kakushinni founded a chapel and mausoleum for Shinran's ashes. This became a pilgrimage site for people whom Shinran had taught and encouraged. Kakushinni took care of this site, passing the caretaker responsibility to her son after she died. From that point until today, the responsibility of taking care of Shinran's chapel and teaching passed from father to son all the way to the current Gomonshu. But the person who started this system was Shinran's daughter. None of this would have happened without Eshinni and Kakushinni. Men still became head priests, but unlike Buddhist monks, these religious leaders were expected to marry and have children. This was a completely different way of doing Buddhism and sharing teachings. Jodo Shinshu is the first example of families, husbands, wives, and children, running temples together. In Japan, Jodo Shinshu temples remain multi-generational family institutions, not institutions that exclude women and young children. Jodo Shinshu was so successful, it became the largest school of Buddhism in Japan. And this is where our tradition comes from. I know we often hear the phrase that Jodo Shinshu is family Buddhism. We may take it for granted, but this is a big deal. Family Buddhism, as practiced by Jodo Shinshu, is a truly radical development in the history of Buddhism. What would have happened to Shinran and his teachings if he had not gotten married? Without a wife and family, would Shinran have ever realized the Nembutsu's power to save all beings? Without Eshinni and Kakushinni, who would have passed Shinran's teachings along to the next generation? Without Eshinni and Kakushinni, would Jodo Shinshu exist? At this service, we honor Eshinni and Kakushinni, along with all the mothers and daughters who have allowed us to hear the Nembutsu teaching. As we reflect on the importance of these special relationships, let me close with the paragraph from the letter I started with, a letter from a Buddhist mother to a Buddhist daughter. I would be very delighted to hear what your children are doing. I especially want to hear about your eldest child. Indeed, how I wish there could be one more time for me to see you and for you to see me while I am still in this world. I myself will be going to the Pure Land Paradise very soon. There, everything can be seen without darkness. So be sure to say the Nembutsu and come to paradise with me. Indeed, when we go to the paradise and meet again, nothing whatsoever will be in darkness. Please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda, Namanda, Namanda. So if you get a chance, go hug your mother or your daughter.
Thank you, Reverend Spencer, for that very inspiring and insightful message describing family relationships. And it had so many layers of thought for us to ponder. It was an excellent talk. Thank you very much. Let's see. Please rise for Ondok-san, page 128. Namam-dubs, namam-dubs, namam-dubs. You may be seated. Please put your hands together in Gassho for closing meditation. Jodo Shinshu Creed. I affirm my faith in Amida's infinite wisdom and compassion. Reciting his sacred name, I shall live with strength and joy. I shall look up to Amida's guiding light. As I reflect upon my imperfect self, I live with gratitude for his perfect compassion, which surrounds at all times. I shall follow Amida's teachings. I shall understand the right path and resolve to spread the true teachings. I rejoice in Amida's wisdom and compassion. I shall respect and help my fellow men and work for the good of my community. Namo Amida Butsu. 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 This concludes our important special service honoring the contributions of Lady Eshinni and Lady Kakushinni to the development of Jodo Shinshu Buddhism. We are so lucky that we have our temple here today because of them. Thank you for attendance today, and we express our gratitude once again to Smitty Sensei, Laverne Sensei, and Reverend Spencer for joining us on Zoom. Let's see. Thank you for your inspiring message from Reverend Spencer. Thank you to our organist, Ann Ong, Breven Honda for ringing the Kansho, and also thank you to Ken Muraoka for leading the live stream and the Zoom, and to Bill Teague also. Reverend Spencer is going to remain on Zoom. She would like to meet you, and she would like to have a little conversation with you, I believe. It's going to be interaction or interactive. So you are all invited to stay and meet Reverend Spencer.
And those who would like to may offer incense at this time as well.
Sorry.
And move up forward if you would like to say hi to Reverend Ann.
Yes. You're all welcome to offer incense. So do we want you to take the microphone to them if they have something to say to her or something?
So if you would like to stay for interaction with Reverend Spencer, we'll be doing that by way of a laptop on the Onaijin apron. This will not be live streamed, but I know that you would really appreciate the chance to get to know you better and to interact with you in this way. So please stick around if you can. Thank you.